Welcome back to our intuitive eating series where I am breaking down all 10 principles of the framework known as intuitive eating. Today we are covering principle 6, which is to feel your fullness. And if you'd like to watch the videos covering the first 5 principles, make sure you check out the playlist in the description below. Now, it might seem obvious that we should stop eating once we feel full, but because of diet culture, leaving food on your plate might feel difficult. When you don't give your body what it wants and needs on a regular basis, it makes sense that you'd be licking your plate clean any chance you get, even if this means going against your fullness cues. While it seems easy enough in theory to just stop eating once you're full, honoring our fullness can actually be quite difficult for many. And there's a few reasons why this is. The first one, of course, you had to see it coming, is a history of dieting. If you have a history of dieting, you've been dieting for weeks, months, decades even, you have likely given your body a reason to continually drive you to eat past fullness just in case. Here's a few examples of how the latest diet trends can lead to us having difficulty honoring our fullness cues. Up first is intermittent fasting. I know this is a very popular diet right now. I get comments all the time talking about how intermittent fasting has worked well for them. And if any of these diets do work for you, that is great. I am not here to rain on your parade. I am here though to remind you that diets don't work for a majority of people, and that working is definitely not defined by short-term weight loss. But anyway, when we intermittent fast or we do any kind of fasting diet and we don't eat for a long period of time, when we are finally allowed to eat again, we are likely going to not even listen to our fullness cues, eat past fullness because we finally have access to food again. It's not because you're a failure or that you're bad at intermittent fasting, it is just your biology trying to keep you safe and fed and fueled. Another popular trend is following some variation of a liquid diet. This might look like a juice cleanse or using meal replacement shakes for maybe 2 meals of your day. It of course makes sense that when we finally have access to real solid food again, that we're likely going to eat past fullness. The act of chewing plays a really big role in satisfaction. But even if we did meet our calorie needs through this diet, we likely wouldn't really be feeling very satisfied because again, that act of chewing plays a really big part there. Now, I'm not against a green juice or a meal replacement shake. They can be really helpful for when appetite is low or if it just sounds good, but using those to replace solid food in attempts to lose weight usually is going to backfire. And my last example of a diet that often triggers eating past fullness is portion control diets like Optavia, for example. These meals are barely enough calories to even count as a snack. So your brain is thinking, okay, we better eat every single morsel of food that's in front of us while we have the chance. So yeah, dieting is one of the biggest indicators of binge type eating, overeating, eating past fullness, whatever you identify with. I have seen that so many people that I work with that struggle with eating past fullness do have that diet history. Another possible reason why you might struggle with this concept of intuitive eating is that you were raised in the clean plate club. If you were raised to clean your plate before you get up from the table, this may have taught you to disregard your body's appetite cues. Oh, you're no longer hungry? Well, that is just too bad because you must finish all of your food before getting up to go play. I have met people in their 60s, 70s, and beyond who are still stuck in this clean plate club mentality. They've spent their entire life building the habit of eating to completion and only stopping once the food is gone. Reason number 3 why you might struggle with this principle of intuitive eating is you have a history of food insecurity. If you've experienced food insecurity at any point in your life, this may have trained your brain and your body to eat extra whenever there's food available. Even if you are no longer food insecure, your body may still be reacting to that past experience. And reason number 4 why you struggle to stop eating when you're full is you are skipping meals. This one goes hand in hand with that history of dieting thing. Going too long without eating and waiting to eat until you are ravenous makes it very difficult to stop eating once you finally start. Your body has a lot of lost ground to make up for. And my 5th possible reason why you struggle to honor your fullness is you are trying to limit food waste. And listen, that is very admirable, and I am not advocating for wasting more food, of course. But if you have the desire to respect economics, you might find it difficult to leave food on your plate. Whatever the cause is of you struggling to stop eating when you're full, I'm guessing you clicked on this video looking for some tips on how to overcome that. And good news, I've got you covered. This first tip might sound kind of silly and obvious, but in order to honor our fullness, we have to know what our fullness cues actually are. What does fullness even feel like? What signs are we looking for to know when it might be a good time to stop eating? There are actually various fullness cues to look out for that go beyond just that physical feeling and distension in your stomach. The first one might be that you are no longer paying as much attention to your food. Maybe you're starting to lose interest in the meal. Another cue could be that the food is starting to not taste as good. Usually those first few bites of food are going to taste the best as a way for our body to drive us to keep eating. But as your body gets the energy it needs, you might notice the food does not taste quite as good. You might find that you are no longer hangry, your mood is becoming more pleasant. And lastly, of course, there is still that fullness cue of that physical distension in your stomach that you might feel. Now, a lot of times when I talk about honoring our fullness, stopping when we're satisfied, people raise concerns about feeling like they are addicted to food. They can't stop eating because they are addicted. You might feel like you cannot stop eating once you start, or that you're always thinking about food. And if you struggle with what feels like food addiction, I feel for you. It is so tough to feel like food has this power over you. I am not here to discredit any of your lived experiences, and your feelings of food addiction are so valid. That said, you cannot technically be addicted to food. The term addiction means that we are physically or mentally dependent on a substance. And while our body does not need drugs or alcohol, it does need food. And you can't be addicted to something that your body needs. Now again, this feeling about food, the feeling of addiction, is so valid. I like to use a few alternate terms instead of the word addiction. Phrases like food obsession, food fixation, or food preoccupation, I think are better ways to describe this relationship to food. Regardless of phrasing though, I want to go over some tips on how to overcome this feeling of food addiction. The first one, of course, is to break free from the diet mentality. I share all the ins and outs on this one in video 1 of this series. Next, give yourself unconditional permission to eat all foods. Yes, that even includes the unhealthy foods. When we feel like we're not allowed to eat a certain food, when we finally have access to it, we're of course going to feel like we are addicted to it. We're fixated on it. It's forbidden, and so we want to have it so much more this one time we get to have access to it. My third tip is to keep in mind that you're allowed to eat food for more than just fuel. Food does so much more for us than just providing physical nourishment. It's okay to eat for taste because you're celebrating something. It's okay to eat out of emotion. We'll discuss that one more when we get to Principle 7. My next tip might sound kind of obvious too, but unfortunately it is so overutilized, and that is to eat enough. If we are not giving our body what it needs, it makes sense that when we go to eat something, we're gonna have a tough time stopping when we're full. For many people, this looks like trying to eat something every 3 to 4 hours or so. And I also encourage trying to get a wide variety of macronutrients in there too. And lastly, if you think you might have binge eating disorder, reach out to a qualified healthcare professional. A lot of times those feelings of food addiction or food preoccupation is actually disordered eating or an eating disorder. All right, those are my tips on how to feel your fullness. We have officially made it through 6 principles in this series. We've got 4 more to go. Practicing this 6th principle of intuitive eating will help you learn how to feel your fullness cues and to eat to a point of satisfaction. And if you're looking for more support in this area, make sure you check out my membership, the Nutrition Reboot. This is a place of community and education and support if you yourself are on a diet ditching journey. I'll leave a link below if you want to learn more. Before you go, make sure you subscribe to my channel so you know when I post the next video of this series. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.